Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder when I drop my kid off at school and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good morning, listeners. It is a brisk February morning here in suburban Chicago. I'm walking home from dropping my son off at school, and it is February 3rd, so it tells me it's time to get moving on my top of the stack. So as a reminder, the top of the stack is the discussion of the previous month's gaming, as well as plans for the new month. I encourage members of the Pick Up and Deliver Guild, number 3269, over on Board Game Geek, to head over there and post your own top of the stack. How did you do in January? What games are you planning on playing in February? I can't wait to hear from you over there. So let's jump right in, and I will let you know how I'm doing. As a reminder, the phrase top of the stack and the idea for this segment, I unabashedly swiped from the Podcast of Nonsensical Gamers, a much beloved and sadly no longer broadcasting podcast done out of Columbus by Matt, Dan, and Tiffany. So anyway, that's that. Okay, so January 2020. We'll start with the monthly stats. I know you all love a bunch of numbers rattled at you here. So it's 62 plays this month of 39 games. I had 10 play tests of our games this month, so good play testing month. My shelf of opportunity has gone down one notch from 47 to 46. My goal is to get it below 20 by the end of the year. My collection size has gone down 4 from 369 to 365. My most played game this month was Onirim with 4 plays in real life, and Through the Ages online with 3 plays. Onirim was fun to return to. I hadn't played that in a few months, and I was at a swim meet where I was by myself in the stands, so I spread it out on my lap on a little sort of clipboard and played, 4 games of it. It's a good time. I think I won 1 of them, which is about right. It's not an easy game. First up, the top of the stack report from last month. I had 4 games on the top of my stack. I had Acquire, Oh My Goods, Quarantine, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the board game, which is maybe the 5th time that has been on the top of my stack and still did not get played. I managed to get Oh My Goods and Quarantine played, but I played neither Acquire nor Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which means I'm starting off the year at 2 for 3. As a reminder for you new listeners, I always give myself 4 games to play, 3 that are new to my top of my stack, and one that is a repeat for a previous month that I failed to play. And I don't count the repeat as one of the 3 games I'm trying to play. So if I manage to play 3 of the 4 I set out, it counts as a success. Unfortunately, I only got 2, so I'm now behind already, 2 out of 3 for the year. So that's an introduction into my new plays this month. I had 6 games that I played for the first time this month, and they were Oh My Goods, which I mentioned a little bit before, is a Alexander Pfister title. It's a tight little engine building card game. I know that he's released some sequels that produce some narrative elements or narrative story parts that I'm really excited to give it a try. But the game itself is a really delightful little engine builder. Each time I play, I feel like I get the hang of it a little bit more. And my daughter and I actually played a game last night, which admittedly is in February, but played a game of it last night as well. I won by 1 point, so haha. Leviathan is a 2-player Kickstarter game I got. It's a little card game where you are either the whale ship Essex, or it's Moby Dick. So you're the whale ship, the Pequod, or you're Moby Dick and his pod of whales. The idea is if you're on the ship, you're trying to find and kill Moby Dick. If you're the whales, you're trying to sink the Pequod. We played 1 or 2 games of it, and they weren't really fast. So it was fun. A cute little game, very tiny, comes in like that, like a little paper wallet, easy to play. Learning it was a little bit of a bother, but not too much, and it was fun to play, so might be a game I'll get out again. Definitely not getting rid of it anytime soon because it was pretty light. The next game I guess I kind of spoiled because it was in my in my 2019 Game Awards. This is the Funkoverse strategy game. I played for the first time last month, and I can't say I'm going to be aching to play it much more. It was fine. Better than, I guess, a roll and move without much else to it. So, you know, as far as a game, it definitely is in the hobby sphere. There just wasn't enough to it to make it exciting for me. The minis are cute, though. I played Splendor for the first time. I went to the Toggle Game Day that we always hold in mid-January. That was a lot of fun. We ran a Seven Wonders tournament and had a good time with that. And while we were there, we were looking for a game. We had like 40 minutes or something. And somebody suggested Splendor. I'd never played that before, so I gave it a try. It was fun. I can definitely see why people thought of it when they then thought of, say, Gizmos or Century. They all feel like they're in the same neighborhood in terms of the kind of game where you acquire resources to buy cards that give you engines that let you acquire more resources. So from that perspective, I like it quite a bit. That said, I didn't have a great time. I got my butt clobbered. It was fun to play, but in terms of winning and losing, I did not do well at all. And I can understand why people like it when they did. I don't see much to push me back to it over something like Century, which I find Century a bit more satisfying in the way it works. It might just be because I lost so badly, but there it is, Splendor. The next one up is Brass Birmingham. I got to try this again at Toggle Gaming with my pal Chris Hickman, regular listener, and probably the listener I mentioned most on the podcast. Sorry if that's tiresome, everybody. Hi, Chris. So we played Brass Birmingham with a couple other experienced Brass Lancashire players, although I believe none of us had played Birmingham before. Maybe one of them had. It was a good time. I really like it. I can definitely see why it's all the buzz lately. The little beer barrels are really cute. I'm not convinced, it's rated much higher than Brass Lancashire. I'm not convinced that it should be. I'm going to need to play both a couple more times, but I'm happy to do so. And it was really fun. I definitely like it, and I'm excited to keep playing it. It's just, the big difference if you've played Brass, so when you're trying to sell things in Brass, there's a race element to it, because there are these ports, and you can sell things at a port, and then you can sell things to the market. Every time you sell things to the market, the value of the things you're selling gets lower, and it'll get to a point where you just can't sell to the market anymore. Also, when you want to when you want to build things, you have to use resources that are available, and it's not uncommon for resources to get taken because all the resources are available to everybody. So you could have a thing where you've sort of set yourself up to do something cool, and then somebody else takes the thing you were going to use to do the cool thing, and now you can't because you just don't have enough money or whatever. That's part of what makes Brass really interesting. Brass Birmingham has that same issue, but instead of limiting what you can sell, you're now limited by how many beer barrels are available. The big difference is there are a bunch of beer places on the board, so if you're quick or careful about it, you could build a brewery and sell on the same turn, using the brewery to fund the sales. The idea is you have to drink beer when you make the sale, I guess. Anyway, really fun. I'm looking forward to trying it again. That's Brass Birmingham. Finally, the last game I played is Quarantine. Quarantine is a game I got for just a few dollars. I bought it thinking it was another hospital-themed game that Rado had talked about positively, and I kind of accidentally bought the other game. It was fine. Very swingy. The way the game works, you're building a hospital, and each round you draw cubes out of a bag that represent people coming to your hospital and or diseases showing up in your opponent's hospitals. And admittedly, I only played it once. But in the 2-player game we were playing, I drew maybe 5 to 10 disease cubes to put in my opponent's hospital, and he drew minimum 20 to put in mine. And so I just spent a lot of the game clearing out disease cubes at a rate he didn't have to. So that was pretty frustrating. There were a bit of things I could do to kind of make that less terrible for me, but ultimately the game was swingy in that it doesn't give everybody penalties anywhere near evenly, or it doesn't have to. I imagine that's resolved some level by a 4-player game. And I guess in a game where the theme was more exciting or there was more narrative to it, it would be interesting, but it really was a pretty simple, I don't even know what you'd call it. You're building tiles and using the tiles to earn money. So it's kind of an engine builder, I guess. So that was Quarantine. Definitely going on my sell pile. I played 3 expansions this month for the first time. I played the Mother of Dragons expansion for Game of Thrones, and I played Dawn of Technology and Dalgard's Academy, or 2 expansions for Trickerion. Those were all cool, and I was happy to try them. Not much else to say about that. On my Out of the Dust list, games I haven't played for a year or more, Game of Thrones would be that one. I literally don't know how long it's been since I've played Game of Thrones. I started lightly recording my plays 6 years ago, and I haven't recorded a play of Game of Thrones since then. So it has been a very long time. That said, I had a lot of fun. I played the Greyjoys, who are my favorite faction, because I think the seagoing sadness of their kingdom is fun. It's fun to say things like, you gotta pay the iron price. And the squids are neat as their icon. I ended up doing pretty well. We only ended up playing about 2/3 of the game, and then we ran out of time, so we had to call it. And I was tied for victory at that point. So I don't think I would have won. I'm sure I would have lost through the machinations of the late game, but it was fun nonetheless. This year's 20 by 5 challenge is coming along nicely. In the first month of the year, we played 10 games out of the 100. So things are going well so far. Brass and Nanty Narking are both in the lead in terms of numbers of play, as well as Oh My Goods. In terms of my shelf of opportunity, I have knocked a number of games off. I took 5 games off my shelf of opportunity this year, or 6. 5. I took 5 off. However, I did acquire 3 games as well, so my total size of my shelf of opportunity has gone down from 48 to 46. The new games that I got were Dice Settlers, The King's Dilemma, and Azul Summer Pavilion. I also purchased the Underwater Cities New Discoveries expansion this month, which means that I am at the same number of expansions as I was before. Finally, I'm going to each month do 2 new updates as well. I have a collection size update and a top 50 challenge. The collection size, you'll remember, I'm trying to reduce the number of games in my collection. I've been pretty aggressive about this. I started at 369 at the beginning of the month. I bought Brass Lancashire. Then I sold Power Grid, Robo Rally, and the old copy of Brass that I had. Then I bought Dice Settlers. And I sold Apocalypse Chaos, Star Trek the Deck Building Game, one of the 2 copies I have, On Her Majesty's Service, Scaribia, Colony, and Canal Grande. Having done all that, then I bought The King's Dilemma and Azul Summer Pavilion. And then, happy to have gotten my collection to 364, which seemed like a big drop to me. I then discovered that for some reason, the game Azul, the original Azul, was not marked as owned in my collection. So I had to mark that owned, which means we're at 365 at the end of the month. So I dropped it by 4. I've got 4 or 5 other games already set up for the next round of selling. So hopefully I'm going to continue the purge. And finally, I said this year I'm adding a top 50 challenge where I'm trying to, over the next 2 years, play all 50 of the games in my top 50 at least once. Because if I don't do that, can I really claim they're in the top 50? So this month I did get Everdell, Orleans, Trickerion, Last Night on Earth, Brass Lancashire, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, and Gloomhaven played. So a good start on my top 50. As the year goes on, that's going to get much harder as the games get a bit further outside the scope of what I would play in a normal month. So the last thing is to talk about the games for next month, which I could have sworn I wrote down here, but I did not. So let's see if I can remember them off the top of my head. You know, I'm going to just reintroduce them using the art of future Brendan. So stay tuned for that. Future Brendan here. The 4 top of the stack games for February are Dice Settlers, Azul Summer Pavilion, Sentinels of the Multiverse, and I'm bringing back again, I'm going to play it, it's going to be on here until it's played, or until I die, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Thanks. Well, that's it for the top of the stack report for me. I'm looking forward to hearing how you've been doing. What has been the highlights for you this month? What games have you gotten played? What do you expect to get played next month? Tell us, hop over to Board Game Geek Guild 3269 and let us know which games are on your shelf and which games are coming off. If you want to reach out to me, you can reach me at brendan@rattleboxgames.com, or you can message me on Board Game Geek, where my username is wombat929. I play online games at Yucata, Board Games Arena, and Boîte à Jeux. All 3 places my username is wombat929. Drop me a line and we'll play a game. And finally, if you want to reach me on Twitter, I've been tweeting a lot lately. That's Digital Sextant is my username on Twitter. I think there's an underscore under the digital and the sextant. So with that, I'm going to call it a day. I hope that you had a pleasant walk and that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.